Well, today we are talking about the evolution of hydrangeas. The number one question, probably all-time number one question, is why doesn't my hydrangea bloom? And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But this is our native hydrangea. And yes, it's not a beautiful blue ball, but if you can find beauty in this, you will love the next step of the evolution of hydrangeas. So this is Annabelle, and this is my absolute favorite hydrangea because it is such a reliable bloomer. Again, it is not pretty blue balls, but again, I find beauty in this plant. It's a great pollinator plant. There are about 4 shrubs put in here. They're 3 years old, and they're putting on quite a show. We have one more step to see another hydrangea that blooms just as reliably, only in a different color. Well, it's still not blue, but it is beautiful. This is Invincibelle Spirit, a type of Annabelle. It's pink, tough as nails, again, reliable bloomer. And every time you buy one, a portion of the proceeds goes to help breast cancer research. And here's our example of the non-blooming hydrangea. This is Hydrangea macrophylla, and it's probably the most popular hydrangea in our gardens. Big blue balls. This one's called Nico Blue, but it hasn't bloomed in about 3 years. First off, with macrophylla, we never trim it back. It puts on buds the year before. The other thing that happens with these plants is, even though it has buds on it, they freeze out. There are other varieties like the Annabelle or Invincibelle Spirit that bloom much more reliably, and I think eventually this guy's going to have to go to the compost pile. You hear that? Unless you bloom. Well, we talk a lot about planting for pollinators, but this is a beneficial insect house from Better Gardens, and it's going to give the good bugs a place to nest. Look at all these different spots. Now, certainly on 4 acres of woods, there's places for the bugs, but now we can see them do their thing. And again, it's just one more way that we can help out, give the good bugs a place to do their thing. All right, now we have some real work to do. There's a good bug. We talk a lot about succession planting, especially when it comes to tomatoes, to beat the early blight and septoria leaf spot. And with all that rain we had at the beginning of the season, the tomatoes that are over there are probably going to get it. But we can still plant tomatoes, believe it or not. Look at these beautiful looking early girls. And that's the trick, is to get an early girl or a cherry, something that's going to put on tomatoes quick. See, it already has tomatoes on it. And I was looking over these at the nursery. Those are just so beautiful. I've got a few spots left that I can put these in, but it's not my last planting. I will plant as late as 4th of July. And all we're going to do is, we've got good compost down here, kind of mix it in a little bit. I always like to put, especially at this time of the season, a little bit of this Espoma tomato tone. I've been using it for a long time. It's really a great fertilizer. And just a little bit in there, and we'll mix it in. And then we'll put our plant in, and everything's going to be good. Right off the bat, I'll put a cage on it too, and some mulch. Man, those are healthy looking plants. It's exciting. And look at those roots. That is perfect, right where you want them. And some straw for mulch, and I'll go get a cage. Put a little water on it. We'll get the other ones in place. And thing's gonna go nuts. I've been using these cages made out of concrete reinforcing wire for 20 years. I know that might seem excessive, but believe it or not, by the end of the season, that plant is going to be toppling over this cage. And I'll probably pound a tomato steak in here too, just to make sure that cage stays in place. All right, I'm going to get these other plants in place. Exciting. Well, to get a little extra room, I pulled some garlic early, and that's one of the fun things about being a garlic grower, is this early garlic. The sheath hasn't papered up here, and this garlic is going to be oily and fresh and wonderful, and we're going to eat some of it tonight. The reason we're mulching these tomatoes is one way to stop the spores, which are in the soil, from splashing up with the fungal disease. It also keeps the soil evenly moist, very important for tomatoes. Tomatoes love warm soil, warm air, and that's why we're planting later with an earlier variety. This is the early girl again. But the tomatoes that we put in earlier in May, they've gone through that cool, rainy period. That's why they're more susceptible to the fungal disease. This tomato will catch up and we'll follow it along through the season. All right, get another cage. All right, one more. Worms in here, that's good. Well, the lilies have started to bloom and you can smell them all through the garden. Now check me out online. That's where you can find lots of other good garden information, how to join my Seed of the Month Club. And until next week, more tomatoes to plant, more beans to plant, you name it, we're planting it. And I don't know what smells better, this or this. It's this. We'll see you then.